Hey, kids, how many people you think are dead in that cemetery?
Not again.
All of them.
Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and gather round, stackers, while we share ghoulish tales of financial horror. What goes bump in the night in your wallet, portfolio, or worse, your credit? We've packed a silver bullet for each of them. And of course, nothing could be darker than a dose of incredible Halloween-themed trivia. And now, a guy who was nearly buried alive in debt. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
That was a horror story, Doug. I was super happy that I lived through to be here with all of you today. Happy Halloween, everyone. Welcome back to the Stacking Benjamin Show. I am Joe Saul-Sehy, and do we have a treat for you? This is going to be like the virtual campfire where we sit around and we tell just ghoulish money stories. And maybe we'll even get one from Doug. You think, Doug, do you got a ghoulish story?
I've just got to figure out which one to pick, Joe. That's going to be my challenge.
And they're all about me, I'm sure. Actually, it's not going to be all about me today. We've got a fantastic panel. Let's introduce you to them. First of all, the guy we collaborate with consistently each and every week, just back from Bali so we could make this recording. Doc G from Earn and Invest is here. How are you, Jordan?
Oh, I'm doing well, Joe. And I first wanted to compliment you. That is mighty scary Halloween outfit you have on.
Thank you. Are you talking about my face? You're talking about my face. Thank you. It starts already. We've gone 3 minutes.
We don't pull any punches here on the Stacking Benjamin Show.
Let's see if we can do better. If we go north of you not north, east of you in Rochester, New York, where our friend from the Better Interest blog, Better Interest.
Ooh.
It's like the old days.
That's spooky.
That's Better
scary.
Interest. That's a callback. The Best Interest blog and long-term investing for long-term something, personal finance.
In the spirit of Halloween, you are butchering this intro.
Wow. This is like a slasher movie.
Wherever he's from. Jesse Kramer's here. How are you, man?
I am doing great. I'm excited to be back. It's been a couple weeks since I've been here on a recording. Really excited for this one. And, in the spirit of Stacking Benjamins, I got to meet a Stacking Benjamins celebrity yesterday in person.
Wait, what?
I got to meet, do we tell them?
We tell them.
Neighbor Doug and I got to meet in person yesterday.
No way.
Essentially at a interstate rest stop, which is where all good meetings take place.
Yeah.
That's where Doug meets everybody.
In the restroom.
It was outside of a Panera Bread, so the bread wasn't the only thing that was stale, but it was worthwhile. It was worthwhile.
Swooning.
Doug went out of his way to stop.
Positively swooning.
So good. Well, you know what? I'm swooning, Jesse. You know why?
Why is that?
Because we have a very special guest with us today.
Oh.
We're super happy she's here. She is a star of TikTok and Instagram. She also is one of the people I was geeked to meet at FinCon this year. Emily Egashira from Hey Friend, It's Em, aka Em is here. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to jump into this fire chat and talk about all these scary money stories because I have my own to contribute to this because we all start somewhere with money. So I can't wait to see what everyone else thinks about the crazy thing that I did many years ago.
Which is, by the way, funny, Em, because, and you've said this before on your TikTok channel, which I love, and we'll have links to your TikTok channel and Instagram and everybody's work on our show notes page of Stacking Benjamins. But people think that for you to get as far as you have with your money, like you've just done everything perfect, Em. Everything's perfect for Em and her family all the time.
Yeah. Well, we sometimes have to make those really big mistakes that rock us and bring us to a rock bottom. And you're like, wow, something's got to change. And well, when you throw some zeros on the end of it, that'll get you motivated. That'll get you changing. So,
and I said, as far as you've come, our stackers might not know how far you've come. So tell everybody about your channel and about your story.
My name, I go by Em, and I am a personal finance content creator. I'm also a certified money coach, and I talk about my journey from poverty to becoming a self-made millionaire in my 30s, completely debt-free, including our home. It's a pretty incredible journey that my husband and I took to get here. And there was no like overnight Bitcoin lotto. There was no trust fund. It was just good old common sense, wealth building tips and strategies. So
that's crazy talk. That is crazy talk.
Yeah. So I share my frugal life, and I share how rich it is and how I can help other people, learn about money and inspire them to hopefully be de-influenced in a world that is like so influencing when it comes to like overconsumption. So,
well, maybe he'll be a good influence on Doug because he needs all the help that he can get. So I can't wait to hear.
We're picking on Doug today, I see. All right.
Oh no, this is just another episode.
Not just today.
We all have a role to play in this world.
You notice how Doc G started it off by talking about my Halloween costume, and it was downhill from there. We're going to be telling our best, or maybe our worst, Doug. I think it's our worst, isn't it? Our scariest money Halloween stories.
If it's going to be a good episode, they better be the worst.
We gotta bring it. Yeah, I can't wait. We've got M here. We got Jesse here. We got Doc G here. We're going to hear their stories in just a moment. But first, we have a couple sponsors who make sure that we can keep on keeping on. You don't pay any money for any of this goodness today. So we're going to hear from them. And then it's time to gather around the campfire, kids. You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? What if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy to use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button? It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. Spring cleaning's made its way to my closet. This time of year always makes me rethink exactly what's in my closet. Really want to keep fewer things, but I also want to keep better ones. I want to feel confident, and to feel confident, looking the part's a big piece of that. So I want pieces that are well made and that are easy to wear all the time. And that's why I keep coming back to Quince. The fabrics feel elevated. The fits are thoughtful. Pricing actually makes sense. As I'm swapping out and I'm cutting, the few additions I'm making all come from Quince. Quince makes high-quality, everyday essentials using premium materials like 100% European linen. They're insanely soft, flow-knit activewear fabric. Their men's linen pants and shirts are lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable. Basically, the perfect layer for spring. The pants strike the right balance between laid back and refined. If you saw the video of me on stage at Retire Meet, those pants are from Quince. It was really cool. I came off stage and Christine Benz from Morningstar getting ready to go on behind me and said, "Love your pants." Not generally. I absolutely love them. I think they make me look put together without trying too hard. And they're flow-knit activewear, moisture wicking, anti-odor, soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it all day. The best part is their prices. This is important, stackers. They are 50 to 60% less than similar brands. How? Quince works directly with ethical factories, cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. Everything's designed to last and make getting dressed easy, which is another thing I think we all want. I love those pants that I wore on stage. It's the cashmere sweater that every time I wear it, Cheryl goes, "That is my favorite sweater on you. It looks great, feels great, and I don't have to have 50 things in my closet. So, like I am, refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. Go to QUINCE.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SB. All right. Doc G, do you mind going first, stepping up to the fire and make the spooky face and tell us the scariest money story in the Earn and Invest repertoire?
I actually have a really scary story, and it's no joke because the consequences were actually profound. So most of you guys know that I am a physician and I'm a hospice physician, so I take care of people at the end of life. I had this guy, Dan, come in town because we were having a family meeting because his mom had really end-stage bad Alzheimer's. And this guy, Dan, was really, really thankful because his dad had done everything right. Like he had organized the care and he had all the medical powers of attorney and the financial power of attorney and everything was settled. And so when we had our family meeting, I met Dan, his mom, his dad. His dad was totally with it. His mom was getting to end-stage dementia. And Dan was just so happy. And I felt good as the doctor because I'm like, you can go back to California. We're in Illinois. He lived in California. I'm like, you can be rest assured when things go bad, we have everything in place. Well, this was right around COVID. And he goes back to California. And 2 weeks later, not his mother, but his dad gets COVID and gets put on a ventilator. And Dan comes to town and guess what the problem is? Well, his dad had the financial power of attorney. Dan didn't have any financial power of attorney, but now his dad was on a ventilator and couldn't speak for himself. And Dan had to not only figure out what to do for his dad, but who was going to pay all the bills for his mom who had around-the-clock care at home. Their finances were completely frozen.
Oh, no.
It was really scary. And here's the really sad thing that happened. It resolved, but the only reason it resolved because Dad's Dan died of COVID. And then all of the
contingent
will and everything kicked in. And then he was able to take over the finances and pay the caregivers for his mom, et cetera. But it was really, really sad. But if his dad had remained alive, but on the ventilator and incapacitated, he would have had to go to the court systems and try to take over their financial control. And that can cost lots of money and a lot of time. And his poor mom had very expensive care at home that they had to make sure that they could keep supporting. But not only that, he would have had to do that while his dad was critically ill in the ICU. It was just a really sad story. And it reminds us how important that financial power of attorney is. If something goes wrong and your family member lives, they haven't died yet, but they're incapacitated, you need to be able to make financial decisions for them.
A story goes from horrible to worse when the best thing that could happen was he died.
Yeah, it was really sad. I mean, the whole thing was sad, but I hate to say it, as the physician, I had a moment of relief for him that at least he could get his mom the financial care she needed and that we weren't facing down him going to court and trying to wrestle control of their finances.
Yeah, this is always so hard, Em. I mean, I just think, especially when people are younger, they think, well, death is something that happens later on, right? But for our stackers that are in their, let's say their 30s, I mean, now's the time to get all this stuff done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, it's funny that that was brought up because just the other day I was talking about like term life insurance, and it's always something that's like, it's on the list, but it's so low on the list. And like, I'll get to it one day, but one day is never. We all know that. And sure enough, like my husband has a policy and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to get a policy. So I started walking like people through the process of me actually applying for term life. And something else that I'm going to be doing too is like, we're talking about, like you said, estate planning and like getting those directives and things in place. That is something that I really feel like we need to teach that in school, because that's something that we need to get set up, and we need to get it set up as young adults. And I think people just think that like, oh, I have time, I'm healthy. Maybe it's not until I have more money. But to Doc G's point, we don't know what's going to happen. And we don't want to put ourselves in a place like that where now you're scrambling and you have to go deal with courts or, it just makes the situation 100 times worse than it already is. And so it is so, so important. And I think one last thing I'll say too is that it's not complicated. There is actually we are spoiled now with the internet, and that there's so many different websites and tools that you can use to set up these wills, these trusts, and these different documents within like minutes online.
Yeah.
And they're very affordable. Like you don't have to go old school and go work with like an attorney. This is something that you can do on your lunch break and be like, hey, honey, I thought I'm just going to go ahead and start working on our will, or I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like as scary as it sounds.
But it's funny, when my kids were 2 years old, I think you've a young child at home. I remember just feeling so vulnerable. I'm a financial planner. My kids are 2, and I don't have a will. I don't have that done. I remember it still took until they were like 4 for us to get all that stuff done. And it shocked me how much better I felt. I was blown away by how all of a sudden we did work with an attorney, and I walked out of his office and I felt so good. I was like, I never thought I'd feel this good. I thought I'd feel morbidly bad because I was acknowledging death, but instead I felt great.
Yeah. I think for some of us, we don't want to think about it because it makes it more real. It makes us feel like we're not invincible, and we don't want to face it. And like, I'm not going to lie, I even feel that way thinking about this planning. And you have to ask yourself really hard questions about what would happen if, and it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's absolutely critical.
Mine's super hard. I always think about, how do I make sure I just exclude Doug from everything? Like, you have to write it in. I don't know if you know this, but if you want to specifically exclude somebody, you have to write Doug gets nothing. So that's letter for letter in my will.
Doug seems like he works pretty hard. He might be entitled to his fair share.
Oh, but don't start, Em. Please, God, no. Jesse, you also have a young one at home. This is a big area for you too.
It is. We're a little bit tardy. I might have even shared it here on the podcast before. We're tardy because the Guardians conversation for us has just taken longer than we were
anticipating. It's so hard.
In terms of,
I'm right here.
Like
Jesse, I'm
who do you think exactly? Doug had a tryout yesterday, and the baby was not impressed. The baby was not impressed. If you haven't seen the picture on the Stacking Benjamins Facebook group, you need to go check it out, because she's one of the happiest babies I've ever encountered, unless she's within like 6 inches of Doug, apparently.
She tried running away from me at least 11 times. Yeah. Just kept sprinting away through the parking lot.
Through the parking lot, through traffic, toward the stale bread of Panera instead of being close to Doug.
That's how bad she wanted away from me.
But no, it's funny. In the spirit of Halloween, right? Brains. Like, what is it, the zombies? Brains. Like, our brains, exactly like Em was saying, like the thought of death, that concept of death, planning around death, having to face our own mortality is not something that we necessarily like want to dive into head first. And also, it's this kind of thing, like, it's very real. Like, there's this very binary like series of things that can happen in your life where either you're totally healthy, in which case, why do you even need an estate plan? Or you are so incapacitated that you wish you had your powers of attorney, like Doc G pointed out, or you're dead, in which case you wish you had your estate plan. And like, none of us want to think about the way that the light switch can flip in those directions. So the easier thing is just to let inertia continue on and not get it in order. But so many of the horror stories that I've encountered firsthand through client work are related to someone at some point in time not getting their estate planning docs in.
Over and over. You see it over and over. Yeah.
Correct.
I used to, when I was giving speeches a lot, when I was with American Express, I would always just point out that if you don't have a will, the state has a will for you. You do have a will. And then I would point, do you really want the state you live in to be in charge of your estate plan? It's absolutely horrible. The guardian thing was tough for me as well. Doc, how old were you when you got your estate plan done?
We did it when the kids were young. So it must have been 10, 15 years ago. And then we just revisited it again about a year ago.
Just to make sure Doug is named.
Just to make sure that Doug is named as not a recipient. But, my kids, so my son is turning 21, my daughter's turning 18. So, it's not a bad time to revisit it because they're older. So guardianship is no longer an issue, but you have to start kind of thinking about how things change as their life cycles change as well as your own.
Yeah, it's a big thing. And I just can't believe how that horror story could all be taken away.
Yeah. And you don't want to deal with conservatorship. You want to avoid conservatorship at all costs. You do not want to have to deal with financial conservatorship.
Yeah. I just can't believe the guy's name was Dan trying to petition the court to help out his mom to get the finances moving. Like, that is just that's a horror story on its own. So nice job, Doc, starting off with death at our Halloween episode.
My pleasure.
Good work. Pleasure. Understand the assignment. Em.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys ready for this one?
No.
This is not a moment I'm proud of, but you know what? This was a learning moment, and I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks. So before my finance journey, I was 24, and I was dating someone who was really into cars. I was like, oh yeah, I want to go get a new car too. I had a totally fine car. My current car I had bought new. I almost paid it off, but we walk up and we pull into an Audi. I'm 24. We pull into an Audi, and I'm like, I want this show floor model. Better yet, I was like, I want to lease it. I don't want to buy it. I want to lease it. I remember sitting down with a representative. I was making $60,000 a year at the time. Pretty good for 24. And the car was $60,000. I was going to lease a car worth my salary. Emily, now, I wish I could have told her, I had like $12,000 of equity of value in this other car I had. And I was like, let's just roll it over. And then I also made like $2,000 towards the lease agreement to lower the payment. So my lowered payment was $550. And this was almost 10 years ago.
Just on the lease, which is the depreciation and interest on the car.
I ended up paying about $35,000 over the course of that 3-year lease to just rent a vehicle. Yeah, that was a really tough pill to swallow.
You looked good driving that car.
I was about to ask you that.
What
did you feel like a badass the whole 3 years you were broke driving that car around?
I mean, it was a nice car, but my budget was saying otherwise. You know, I mean, it was bleeding my budget.
A little extra far.
I had the mentality of, if I can afford the payments, I can afford the car. And that is such a common theme that I see and hear a lot nowadays with people. But the reality is you don't take into account everything else. You don't take into account all the maintenance and the insurance. And I had to change out my tires on this car. I had to pay for OEM parts. So I couldn't get aftermarket. I had to get Audi name brand parts. And
those are inexpensive. Those are really inexpensive.
My tires alone to replace them were $1,200 for tires, which, I mean, this again, 10 years ago, was like inflation adjusted. I mean, we're talking crazy money, and I'm 24. So that is my really scary horror story. Thankfully, after that, I got on my personal finance journey.
That's a frightening one.
Whew.
Jesse, why is it? Why is it that we all think in terms of payments like we do? Oh, I'm going to do this third subscription. I only have one set of eyes. I'm going to do a third subscription because it's only $12 a month or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much easier to stomach. That car, right? That wasn't a $60,000 car. That was a $550 car. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, I'm just, I'm being facetious, of course, but like,
right.
I think so many of us, it is so easy. It's so alluring just to think a little bit shorter term, right? Like, why do we have to think about 5 years and 10 years and 20 years down the line? Like, that's too hard. Why not just think about the next 3 months? In which case your payments was what? 3 times 550. And like, it's pretty easy to stomach, or it's very easy to say like, okay, you were making $60,000 a year. You were making $5,000 a month gross. 550, what is that? 11%? 11% seems like a smallish number. 11% of your gross pay went towards that car. That's not that bad. Like, we have these totally understandable, very human ways of like rationalizing these financial decisions, of minimizing certain numbers, especially when, I mean, have you seen the way a new Audi looks? It's totally understandable. But yeah, it's cool that you've reached this point. So many of us, we learn from these mistakes, and 10 years later, we're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah. And I think like, especially with these younger generations, we FOMO and not FOMO and like, or sorry, YOLO too. FOMO and YOLO. We like our abbreviations.
All together.
Lots of
right.
O's. And
we're living in the moment, and it's going to be impossible to retire anyway. So I might as well enjoy life. I might as well buy the car. I might as well do this and that. And we don't think about opportunity cost. And if Emily now knew what I knew back then, and I invested $550 every month, I mean, we're talking serious money. And so,
and you know, what's funny is you could have then later on easily bought an Audi later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Later on, had all the Audis you want because your net worth is fine.
We don't know what we don't know, right? And that's why I made my channels too, is being able to enjoy your money now while also still, to Jesse's point, breaking out of that short-term view and start to see past that and like, okay, how can I balance my budget to enjoy both?
I had a mentor once who said, you got to look past the short-term and obvious to the long-term and not so obvious. And I think for a lot of people, leasing over the short term, Jordan, seems like the best thing to do, but long term, not so obvious. It can get kind of ugly.
You have to put your hand on the stove once to know to avoid the stove later on in life. You want to make these kind of bad decisions when you're young and they're recoverable. And so thank God this was a very recoverable mistake. And the opportunity cost you missed was worth the lesson you learned. Yeah, it's hard, right? Because we grow up, we work really hard, we get our first adult job. And, I went to medical school, right? So a lot of times you get out of residency and you're like, I've worked so hard, it's time to enjoy the fruits of my labor.
I'm
and
a
so many
doctor,
doctors do
damn it.
this too. So many doctors
I
do this
deserve it
too.
disease.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so and so you're like, I work so hard. Other people have this stuff. And so I should have it too. But we also know that there's such thing as hedonic adaptation. I mean, cars generally don't also make you happy in the long term. So if you can start thinking about happiness, and what really
Look
makes
at
us
Doug.
happy.
Doug's like, I'll challenge you on that.
What is he saying?
Actually,
What?
my roommate in college loves cars, like loves Corvettes specifically. And they make him very happy, Jordan.
I mean, there are cases in which a specific thing, which you find a real sense of excitement, joy, and purpose in. So if that's your hobby and you love that thing, but I'm going to guess for M that she wasn't like a real Audi enthusiast, that it was more the FOMO, and she probably suffered from the hedonic adaptation. She probably had some buyer's remorse eventually and realized that this money spent didn't really give me that much pleasure compared to buying a used car for something I could afford and then using it for what it was meant to be, which is to get me from place A to place B.
Em, did you have
80?
buyer's remorse, or in this case, leaser's remorse?
I think I wasn't really aware of how bad of the decision was until I started to learn about money, because I'm like, oh, this is what people do. They get new cars, and leasing is just a flexible option. But I didn't realize I'm paying to just rent something. And then after this, I don't have anything. I have no car. It's a lack of knowledge and awareness of what I was even doing. And like I said, I had really bad peer pressure from someone I was dating at the time. And so I was like, well, yeah, everyone deserves new cars. And like, I'm making grown up money now. And like, you get into this lifestyle creep, lifestyle inflation. And it felt cool to be like, look at me, I made it. But
it could have been worse. You could have got
no
a
one
tattoo.
cares what you drive.
You could have got a tattoo. It could have been worse.
I might have done that too. Well, that's another live stream.
Thomas could be like somewhere on your body. Like this is like at least you
No
paid
names
your
though. I
dues
didn't
with
get names.
You paid
No
your dues with the
regrets.
car and it was gone. Yeah.
No regrets. Yeah. Doug?
Em said something a couple of minutes ago that I want to touch on a little bit more. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it, which was, I think there's a considerable number of people in their 20s and early 30s who are feeling like, I can't afford those life goal financial achievements anyway, so I might as well do a whole bunch of the smaller, more luxury types of things, notably houses. It's that, I'm never going to be able to do what my parents did or what my grandparents did, because I think that messaging is being crammed down their throats through social media. Yes, are houses at a greater premium now than they were maybe in the early to mid 90s? Yes, they are. But I'm worried that they just take themselves out of the game entirely and choose to do a whole bunch of the smaller luxuries, not realizing it's not just the maybe $550 payment now, but what that money represents 10 years later and how that could turn into a home that they could very much achieve.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You take the possibility just right off the table.
You do. And the messaging that is coming through the mainstream media even is driving me crazy, because it was never easy for any generation. You can go back 150 years.
Yeah, but
it was never easy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it is so much harder today. I just had a discussion with a stacker in Southern California. He needed a $10,000 down payment he had to come up with. Now, a house that he would have bought where he lives in the same general area, $1.1 million for that house. He's like, my daughter is 30 years old. She's never going to be able, she's got to save over $100,000 to get 10% down. I think it is a whole different world, but I love the idea of why take yourself out of the game? Why just go, yeah, screw it, I'm done. Not going that way. By the way, it also strikes me that for you said you paid your house off already.
We did. Yes.
They talk about, quote, good debt, and a mortgage is good debt. You went from leasing a car to now I'm not even going to have, quote, good debt.
Yeah. Now, it's so funny because we were just on the Money Guy show. Our episode comes out soon, and this was one of the things that got a little bit of a wrist slap of paying off our mortgage. But I know it wasn't the right thing to do for us on paper, mathematically, because we had a low interest rate. Like, I knew it, and we talked about the trade-offs, but our whole goal was being debt-free. Like, I wanted freedom, total freedom. I didn't want to owe anything to anyone. I hate the feeling of owing something. We still balanced it out with some investing, but we just aggressively paid it off, and we were earning the most that we had in our careers, and it was gone in 3 years.
That's why we had to have you on, because we actually have talked about this a lot. That's not a mathematical decision. And Brian and Bo, they're just morons. I mean, come on, really?
Let's be honest.
I totally forgot to say hello for you, but I totally say hugs and kisses or something.
Hugs and kisses to my good friend. I do love those guys. And when they say they're total morons, but I'm being facetious. But we do often talk about how wealthy people, they're not wealthy because they're dumb. They're wealthy because they're intelligent. And yet you see all these studies that show wealthy people pay off their debt. They pay, including the mortgage, including the ones where the math is bad. By the way, whenever you have somebody at the auto dealership who is telling you about the car payment and about how all the things that you need to add and how cool you'll look. I mean, even back in 2009, Budweiser was telling us how intelligent and on our team these guys are. Let's have a listen.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius. Real Men of Genius. Today we salute you, Mr. Used Car Lot Auto Salesman. Mr. Used Car Lot Auto Salesman. Slick back hair, a sharkskin suit, alligator boots. You cultivate a look that oozes, trust me. I think that I can trust you. You stand behind every car you sell. Because if you stood in front and the brakes failed, you'd be crushed. You better watch out now. Oil leak? What oil leak? That puddle under the car is just sweat from all that horsepower. Let the horses out now. So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, Mr. Peddler of the sheet metal. Because when life hands you lemons, you sell them. Mr. Used Car Lot Auto Salesman. Bud Light
10 out of 10. I love that.
That's one of my favorite. That whole series was great, but that was one of the top ones. We're going to pause right here. We got 2 more stories to go. Well, 3 stories to go. We got a story from Doug. We got a story from Jesse, and I have a short story as well for this special Halloween episode. But at the halfway point of every Friday episode, we have this year-long competition between our 3 frequent contributors. Jesse's the only guy from that crew who's here representing himself today. Em, you're going to be representing the Paula Pant from Afford Anything. Woo-hoo. And Doc G, you are representing OG. So we're going to keep the G's together, have the ladies on a team, and have Jesse play for himself. Em, we've got some good news for you and some bad news. Which one would you like?
Let's soften the blow here. How about the good news first?
Well, the good news is there's no pressure because Paula is failing like she does every year at the trivia contest, which also means it's also the good news that you get to go last because of that. So you will have the final guess. Yeah. Okay. Jesse is in first with 12.5 points. OG has 12 and Paula has 9.5. So if somehow you're able to help Paula win one, she's still a long way away. So there's no pressure, zero pressure, but there is some pressure on Doc G to try to help OG
Always
retain his title. Yeah, it's going to be tough as we are last day of October. We only have a few more of these left, everybody. We need a question though, Doug. Special Halloween episode. I'm sure you've got some special trivia on tap.
Oh boy, do I, Joe. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I can't wait for trick-or-treaters to arrive. But here's the thing that drives me crazy about the whole night. I've never understood why they call it trick or treat when it's all treats. It's all treats all the time. We all have that one annoying neighbor handing out full-size candy bars. No wonder no kid ever picks trick. I mean, we might as well teach some of those noisy little thieves of joy to say treat or treat. So this year, I'm bringing back the trick, baby. I'm going to turn some tricks. These little anchor biters... Probably shouldn't say that. These little ankle biters are about to learn why Doug doesn't lose. Now, don't worry. I'm not a monster or anything. I'm not handing out raisins. That would be really mean. Instead, I filled these fake candy wrappers with the 2025 tax tables. That way, when one of these kids becomes a child TikTok star or hits the lottery, they'll thank me later. Doug's always thinking ahead. He always is. Something tells me these little whiners will still howl like a werewolf at a full Halloween moon, though. And speaking of full moons on Halloween, pause for effect, that's actually pretty rare. Like, Doug admits he's wrong about something rare, which is never, by the way, because, true story, never wrong. So here's your question. In what year will the next full moon fall directly on Halloween? I'll be back with an answer right after I finish helping Joe's mom set up skeletons in the front yard. Between you and me, I'm doing most of the heavy lifting here.
You call the kids whiners. Oh my goodness. There's a slight amount going on there. Jesse, you are first. Halloween, full moon. When's it going to happen again?
It will happen. It's 2025. It's going to happen in 2039.
He clarifies the year.
Well, in the spirit of OG and Paula, I had to put in some sort of clarifying statements, mental math. So all I could think of is what year it is.
You did it about 8 minutes faster than they usually do, though.
Yeah.
2039. Doc G, you think it's going to be before that or after that?
Oh, it's clearly 2056.
2056.
I mean, it totally is. Mark it.
And we got 2039 and 2056. What are you thinking?
You know, I'm going to go a little like Price is Right action here because I was like, oh, I'm going to add one on the top or on the bottom. I think it's going to be sooner. I'm going to say 2038.
2038. Good play. Nice job. We call that move, by the way, the Chelsea Brennan. Chelsea's been on the show quite a few times, and she was the first person who did those Price Right moves. So you just,
all right.
You just Chelsea Brennan,
we
Jesse Kramer. Nice job. All right. We've got 2038 for M, 2039 for Jesse, 2056 for Doc G. Who's right? We'll be right back. Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Hey there, I'm Paula Pan. I help people make the smartest money decisions possible.
Do not ever worry about your salary. You need enough to make sure that you aren't in a bad financial position. Once you have that, your salary becomes moot. What matters from that point forward, upside gains. Any type of ownership stake or ownership potential, that's the money.
Remember, you can afford anything, just not everything. Afford anything. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Jesse, you started out with 2039. How you feeling?
I'm feeling not great because I think M took all my downside and I think Jordan has a good amount of my upside. Because follow my actual OG logic here, if I may. Isn't the lunar cycle 28 days long? So I think any given year, there's always going to be a full moon at some point between 14 days before and 14 days after Halloween. So I think on average, once every 28 years, you're going to get a full moon on Halloween. So I just took the middle. I added 14 years to 2025. Boom, 2039. But M now has all my upside, and I have up till 2053, except that's when OG starts to infiltrate on some of my guesswork. So if I'm thinking about it the right way, my odds are not good.
Doc, you've got pretty good odds then, though, being in the upper end of that.
I've got infinity above.
If it never happens again, you win.
And hey, it's rare. Might not happen again till 2136 for all we know. But I got that covered too.
And M2038, you feeling good?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this Price is Right move is gonna. I feel like Jesse used way too much math and mind power in this one. Like you gotta just like feel it. You gotta just like feel the answer. So we'll see.
And when you come back, the more times that you're on, you'll see that most of the quote math that happens during our trivia segment is smoke and mirrors, dogs and ponies.
I don't know. Jesse sounded really smart with that answer. So,
well, in your defense, Em, I am much more astrology than astronomy in most of the things I do. So, me trying to dip my toe into actual astronomy is probably not a good thing.
Well, let's see how far Jesse got dipped into astronomy. Doug.
I feel like Jesse's trying to pick us up at the bar right now, talking about astral signs and stuff.
Well, hey.
At the interstate rest stop.
Yeah,
yes,
right
next to the Panera.
It was a scene, man.
You look like a Capricorn, Doug. What can I say?
Doug's who's going to win this thing.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm your resident tricker and the only guy in this basement who actually gets Halloween, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. All right, it's Halloween, which means it's time to talk about vampires and ghosts and ghouls and full moons and why I'm pretty sure I could take a werewolf in a fight. I've got the upper body strength. I mean, just look at me. The question was, when will the next full moon fall exactly on Halloween? So let's see how our so-called experts, heavy on the air quotes there, let's see how they did. Well, I will tell you that it's 17 years sooner than what Doc G guessed, 1 year sooner than what M guessed, and 0 years sooner than what Jesse guessed, because the correct answer is a frightening 2039, making Jesse our improbable winner.
No way. Jesse
let's be
cheated.
honest. I knew it all along.
You know, Em and I couldn't win. He already got it for the first guess. We were
All that astrology coming through.
I learned that from OG. Just take a guess and hit it dead nuts on with no context.
I had to control my facial expression.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
That was impressive.
It's happened before, Em. I think that's the third time it's happened.
I think it's happened too many times, Doug.
Well,
I think it's happened too many times.
He waited like, 8 or 9 months between the first 2 times he nailed it. So he's playing the long con on us. That's for sure.
I think it's been over a year since I nailed one.
I think it has. I think it was about this time last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was
the first one I think I got dead nuts on.
Was it wrong for me to give him the question in advance? Should I have not done that?
Dun, dun, dun.
It's amazing the favors Doug will do for people at a rest stop.
In a Panera parking lot. Hey, look, a sandwich is a sandwich, man.
I'll give you the answer to the trivia. Oh, boy. Let's go to the second half of this discussion.
Please.
Jesse, get our brain off this and tell us a horror story, Jesse Kramer.
Well, when Doc G started this conversation on a deathbed in hospice, I thought, man, I'm going to have to go even more serious than that. My story takes place inside of a hot tub. That's a joke. But no, my horror story is probably the first really big, stupid decision I made in my financial life, at least I think was pretty dumb, involved buying a 5-figure hot tub. It's kind of similar in some ways to M's story, where it's like I was young. To me, this was a cool thing. And I had, at least in my mind, enough disposable income to make it work. But I 2 major failings and like 2 major lessons that I would teach to anybody. And I've tried to teach to people before when I brought up the story. The first one is that I made the decision because we were just coming off of a fun mountain retreat with friends up in the Adirondacks that involved a hot tub. And when it's a cold winter night and you're surrounded by friends and you've had a couple beers, like how much fun is it to hang out inside of a hot tub? The problem is it's hard to recreate that just in everyday life. There's this great saying out there about like rent your fun, but that like you don't buy your fun, you just rent your fun, because it's hard to recreate those vacation vibes just everyday life. But then the second big lesson was it was my first school of hard knocks lesson in the way that hard sales tactics work. And I can still remember this sales guy sitting in my kitchen And amongst some of the other tactics, I still remember him telling me about his daughter's student loans and how every sale is meaningful to him and how, like, everything he does is for his kids. And man, this, it would really help out his family every time someone buys a hot tub from him. And I still remember hearing that. And at the time being like, oh man, that's an interesting story. And now after I read Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, I still remember reading that book and being like, oh my gosh, these are all the things that hot tub sales guy did to me, which I fell for. Like, it's not that he did it to me, right? I take responsibility for it, but those tactics really worked on me. And it made me realize that professional sales tactics do work. And if we can educate ourselves on kind of how our brains respond to them, I think it's a pretty good defense system. So that's my scary story.
Wow. How much was the hot tub?
It was like $11,000. It was the Audi of hot tubs, if I may say so.
Was it worth it? Was it a really nice hot tub? I'm genuinely curious now.
It was a really nice hot tub. It fit like 8 people. It had awesome jets. It was just very high quality. It was well made.
I'd better need to smoke a cigarette after I got out of that hot tub. That's how good that would have to be for $11,000.
That's the thing. It would probably, I mean, at this point, I'm over it. We when I sold my old house, the hot tub stayed. And it was kind of part of the deal. It was part of the price of the house, if you will.
You might have gotten $11,000 more for the house based on the hot tub.
It was an investment.
It was an investment.
As Em winks at everybody for those of you on audio.
Right. But if you were to take the number of times I was in that hot tub as a denominator, take $11,000 divided by X, whatever, how many times in the hot tub, and just say like per soaking, how much did I pay? It is not a pretty number.
That's ugly. Jesse was talking about some of the tactics that the salesperson used on him. Did you get any of those tactics at the car dealer, Em? Used on you?
No, honestly, I can't remember exactly how they tried to sell me on the car, but I remember it was very painless. It was very VIP and yeah, like, we're going to get you in this car. They had a lot of catchphrases that you're just like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And oh, well, yeah, you can absolutely afford the payment. These people have been trained to say all the right things and make you feel a certain way. And to Jesse's point about how I would say that was a bit of an impulse purchase, right? He was buying to feel a certain way or to evoke a certain emotion. That doesn't just happen with salesmen or saleswomen or like these one-on-one face interactions. That's happening every day online too. Brands and companies, I won't name them, but very large ones that maybe start with an A, they are so good about taking the friction out of buying. It is painless to buy these things. Your card's already loaded up. One click buys it. It's at your house in 2 hours. So my biggest thing in terms of a tip for that, you want to add space between you and the purchase. When you add that buffer room and that time and that waiting period, it gives you time to think about it more critically. So like a common one is like the 24-hour rule. Save it to your cart for later, give it a day, sleep on it. I guarantee, I've done this so many times, like 90% of what I save for later, I end up not buying because it's in the moment that we get so excited and we want these things. And so you got to give yourself some breathing room.
Did you guys know this? And Em, you reminded me of something there because it actually applied to my situation. Some states have consumer protection laws that for certain types of sales, especially if there is that in-person salesman, you actually have a short grace period that you're allowed to literally like renege on the contract
Take it
that you
back.
signed. Correct.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And especially so it could be like cars. It applied in my case to the hot tub, I know. I was excited and I didn't want to go back on it. But just for that reason, for some people are like, wait, I wish I had that 24-hour shopping cart period, but the guy really wanted me to sign in person. So for all the stackers out there, that's interesting to.
Insurance products have that 10-day free look period where after the
real
date
estate does too. Remember that great scene in Glengarry Glen Ross where the guy went out and bought the real estate and his wife said, you got to go get our money back. And they just slow walked him to make sure the 24-hour period expired. But real estate, I think, is one of those too. Yeah.
I believe that also applies even to like flights. If you buy a flight, you have 24 hours, you can get your money back, refund it too. A lot of people don't know that.
It is interesting. I mean, I found that on vacations, I used to always want a memento. I'd want a coffee mug or I'd want a beer glass or a t-shirt or something. And you know what's funny? I found that if I found something clever or fun or just something that I thought I might want to take home, if I took a picture of it, if I just took a picture of it, it went away. It was incredible because I'm like, oh, I have the photo. I can laugh at the photo whenever. You know how often I look at that photo of the funny thing that I saw on vacation that I used to bring home that I don't bring home anymore? Never. Never once. It's so strange how that just completely neuters that almost like your 24-hour rule.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good tip especially for people with children. Because, kids are going in stores like, I want everything, right? This, and that. Okay, we're going to take a picture of this and we're going to add it to our list for our birthday, for Christmas, for this. So we'll take a picture and then we'll put it on the list, and then we can go through the list of all the things you want afterwards. There's something about it. I don't know. It's almost like you're still capturing the item in some way, right? It's not like
I feel like you still get the dopamine hit.
Yeah, you still get to look at it and be like, oh, that was so cool. And it kind of helps you reminisce of it. I don't know.
It dissipates.
There's some psychology. Someone has to know in the comments. Maybe someone has to help us figure this out.
Jesse and the hot tub money machine. That's what we'll call that story.
Yeah, it was I was not bobbing for apples in there. I can tell you that much. I mean,
Doug, I don't know what he's talking about either, Doug.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Just try to make it Halloween related. I don't know.
Doug, what's your scary story?
Well, I've got several, which will shock nobody. One that I don't know if it had real long-term effects or not, but I was just feeling the moment, very young. My wife and I were waiting. We were literally taking walks in the town we live in to try to induce delivery of our oldest son. That we had been in the hospital for almost a week and he was not going to show up. So they actually sent us home. That's a whole separate story, but they sent us home and they're like, go take a walk. It's almost Thanksgiving. There's a full moon coming. This is going to happen. So we're walking around town. It's a pretty nice town that we were walking around, and we happened to stop into an eyeglass store that had some pretty nice pieces, and one of which were antique glasses that were at the time in the early 90s, well, mid 90s, were about $1,400. I think that's roughly $3,000 now, maybe $2,800 now. And we were just feeling great. It was this beautiful fall day, and we were excited for the birth of our son, and thought, yeah, that seems like a really good idea. That's an incredibly stupid idea. And the thought of what could have happened with that, $2,800 in today's dollars, what could have happened with that? I still have buyer's remorse. I didn't at the time. It took a long time for me to have buyer's remorse about that. I wore the glasses for years. No one told me, including you, that I looked like a fat John Denver in these glasses.
Why are you pointing to me?
Because I knew you then.
I never said there goes fat John Denver, though.
Yeah,
we need a picture now. We need a picture of these glasses.
When I think back on it, again, there are some stories that aren't horror stories for until years later, when you realize what the opportunity cost was for some of those decisions. So that's an early one that come to mind. Em, you might have said this, I'm making adult money now. I feel like I can make adult decisions and adult purchases. And I think that probably fell into that category. And I would say to our younger listeners, don't fall into that trap. It's a super easy one. I did the car thing like so many. I'm from Detroit. You're supposed to have cool cars. It's part of the culture. It's so easy to fall into that early in your career.
It strikes me between M's story, Jesse's story, and your story, Doug. It just reminds me of when TikTok star Buffy Purcell was on the show and said, and M, you kind of said this too, but she just said it very succinctly. The most dangerous phrase for a broke person to say is, I deserve it. The most dangerous phrase, just 100%. Speaking of, I have my own sales tactic nightmare. I went to Midas Muffler when I was a senior in high school. I had this old Monte Carlo that was just falling apart. In fact, it was so bad. You know how like the glue on the ceiling doesn't stick anymore? And so the ceiling just kind of hangs down. Yeah. I put my own stereo in the car, and I didn't understand what the ground wire was for. And so to get it to work, I had to turn on the car. I turned on the car. I didn't realize I had all these electricity running through my body. And then I turned the car off and I got shot out of the car. Just fell on the ground outside the car as the electrical system was no longer running through me. But that's not my horror story. The horror story was I go into Midas with this horrible car. The guy who's going to work on my car is like, instead of just a muffler, I think this thing, you could really restore this car. Like this car could be awesome. And he goes, I'm actually working on my car out back. Come on out back. And he shows me, and he's got this engine he's taken out of his car. and it is all shiny. It's so beautiful. And then he shows me his car that he's restoring, and he goes through it. He's like, you could be doing this with your car. So I buy this package where I buy the sport struts and the sport shocks, and I get the upgraded muffler system. I get all this stuff. I have no idea what this guy's doing, right? I get back to the waiting area and I sit down, and the receptionist takes out the phone book. They'd have the old phone book, and she goes to the back of the yellow pages where they have all of the coupons in the back. She cuts out a coupon for that place and hands it to me and just gives me this knowing look and goes, "You're going to want this, honey. You're going to want this."
Oh no.
She's the receptionist is telling me I'm getting ripped off. I have no idea. I'm a high school kid. And so I'm like, wow, she's so generous. And that guy's so nice. This is incredible.
I get like home. She didn't stop you from jumping. She just handed you a pillow to soften the landing.
Yeah.
She did. Well, I think if she would have told me I was getting ripped off, the guy would have fired her.
Yeah.
Jordan?
It's interesting. I find it really funny. Most of these stories are stories that really burn you because you spent when you shouldn't have spent. But if we really think about it, the really scary stories often aren't that. It's like, I didn't get the life insurance and I should have, or I didn't change the beneficiary, or I listened to that guy who said that I should put all my money in this new business and I lost everything. It's funny because most of these are really survivable. And I guess in a sense, it's a blessing. Like, we walk away from these feeling burned, but hopefully we learn from them. There are these really catastrophic things that happen to people when they just make, unfortunately, really dumb decisions or non-planned out decisions. I kind of like the fact that we can look at all these and be like, yeah, I got some egg on my face, but you're all probably better people for it in the end.
I think it's a great lesson there. And I think that's probably a great place to end this discussion, because I do think, we're all here. We all survived. Jesse survived the hot tub. Em survived the Audi. I survived the Mighty Muffler shop. My dad gave me hell when I got home, by the way. He's like, "You're a moron. You just get that car where the ceiling doesn't even stick has sport shocks and struts." Really? You can't even sit in the car, yet it cornered great after that. It's fantastic. We'd love to hear your stories. What are your money horror stories? Join our Facebook group, Mom's Basement, stackingbenjamins.com/basement. It's a good shortcut to get you there. We set up a link that takes you right to the group. Let's share some more of our stories. If you, by the way, have a question about a money story that you have, head to stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail and call in with that question. Love to hear those as well. If you're not sure how to get out of a money story that you want to make it in, we will help you there too. Speaking of help, we'll help you one more way. We're going to help you by sharing all the good places you can go to find out other stuff, because all three of these awesome creators have things that you can follow. Let's go to our special guest first. Em, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a blast.
Thank you. I learned a lot talking to everyone, and thanks so much for having me. And hopefully I can come back and start getting those points for Paula, because I was so close. I was this close.
What a
Dang
way.
it, Jesse.
If Jesse hadn't cheated, you would have won. That's your own horror story for Halloween. So what's coming up on your channels? What kind of stuff do you have that people can look forward to if they follow you on TikTok or Instagram?
Yeah. I have a lot of great resources, especially for very beginner-friendly resources, because money can be really overwhelming, especially in the finance industry and all the jargon. So definitely come to my page, check out those resources. They're completely free. I think the next biggest thing for me is next Monday, our episode on the Money Guy Show is going to be live. So we're going to put out all of our money, and we're going to talk about, can we actually retire at 40? And so that's going to be a really big, exciting update. And hopefully it'll help teach some people a few things in the process.
Your second best podcast appearance. That's what you're trying to say.
Absolutely. This is first and foremost.
Jesse Kramer, what's going on at the Better Interest blog? The Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors podcast. What do we got coming up, my friend?
A show about money, maybe. What is going on? I think October, today's October 31st, right? October has been our best month ever on the podcast in terms of listeners. And I will say part of that is because we've gone to 3 episodes a month. So when you increase your episode count by 50%, you tend to get more downloads. But still,
There's some math there too.
There is some math there. We're now doing one Ask Me Anything a month, which are kind of the most popular episodes. One deep dive. This month's deep dive episode was about special needs planning for a special needs child, which is a really interesting and topic. And for any parents out there who have a special needs child, you'll know how much complexity goes into that task. And then upcoming next week, I've got an episode coming out with Professor John Dinsmore. Really interesting stuff about the marketing of debt. So he talks about like credit card marketing, the marketing of loans. We even touch on like the marketing of sports gambling and stuff like that. And it kind of ties into some of the sales and poor spending decisions we were talking about today, because there really is this marketing and advertising machine behind the financing industry, which isn't always targeted in our best interest. So that's what's going on over on some podcast about money.
Personal finance for long-term investors. I can say it right. I just apparently chose not to. Doc G, how about over at the Earn and Invest podcast?
At Earn and Invest, we just had Ilana Golan on from the Leap Academy. We talk about portfolio careers, the world of corporate America careers, making a living. It's all changing. We used to look at IQ. Then we started looking at EQ. She talks a lot about AQ, your ability to have agility, to move, to change, to shift, to pivot. And so how do you build a portfolio career? We talk about it on Earn and Invest.
Wow. You guys are all working on such cool stuff. Can I come live where all three of you live? It's fantastic. And we will link to all of them in the show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. All right. As always, Doug, you are wrapping up this baby for us. What should be on our to-do list today?
I'm not working on anything cool, Joe, but I do know there were 3 things we should have learned today. First, take some advice from our guest, Auntie M. If you know you're going to look like a movie star driving around in a brand new El Camino, it absolutely makes sense to lease a car. In fact, go ahead and use your emergency fund to reduce those monthly payments.
Oh, God, no.
Second, don't forget the insightful lesson from Jesse. Hot tubs will absolutely enhance your home's resale value. But the big lesson? Don't let those little con artists take your candy corn without breaking a sweat. Make them do a trick by like cleaning out your gutters or changing the oil on your snowblower before you hand over the good stuff. Thanks to our good friend Emily for joining us today. You'll find her channel, Hey Friend, It's Em, on TikTok and Instagram. Follow her for great tips and financial fun. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. And thanks to the Jesse Kramer for hanging out with us today. You'll find his fabulous podcast, Personal Finance for the Long-Term Investor, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. That's the name, Joe. Remember it.
Long-term investors.
Yeah, I mean, that could work too. It sounds pretty good. Thanks also to Doc G for joining us today. You'll find the irresistible Earn and Invest podcast where I had to think about that. Like, is it irresistible?
Nice pause. Nice pause.
You'll find the irresistible Earn and Invest podcast wherever you listen to podcasts anywhere. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2025, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.